All right, here we are up for a special edition of the Jake Blanchard podcast. I'm here with Ross Allen from Fourth and Long podcast. He's a local guy from Idaho. He's doing a twice a week show breaking down the NFL, the AFL, which is Australian football, and we're going to learn a little bit about that today, and the MMA. But man, his platform's blowing up, man. He's all over the place. You can get him out on Spotify. You can find him just about anywhere where you can listen to podcasts and whatnot. But I've been so impressed, and I finally reached out to him and said, dude, you have kind of become the guy that I go to when I'm getting ready to listen to fights. You're kind of the guy that I'm going to, even though I'm not a big NFL fan these days. But you do post some really great content. So Ross, welcome to the show, man. It's an honor to have you, brother.
Well, it's an honor to be on, especially with the introduction like that. I mean, man, keep talking if you want to, because I don't really get to hear that all too often.
Oh, for sure, brother. You know,
No,
I know we get into our own worlds a little bit, and we just produce the content that we love producing. And, you know, it's always nice to come across people who appreciate it. I'm certainly one of those people who appreciate you.
And that's badass. And I come across that, definitely come across people that have something to say on the opposite side of the spectrum. But, you know, we love them all just the same because of, you know, at least they're commenting on YouTube and helping with the algorithm. So that's all I care about.
That's right, man. Get those algorithms dialed in. Hey, funny story on how you and I met. God, we were at a Front Street fight. God, it had to have been about a year ago. Was it a year ago? Maybe.
I think it was October.
Oh, was it October?
I think it was October.
That was God, who was the main card on that fight?
That was the lightweight title fight, right?
Yeah. Yes,
you know, honestly, I'm blanking. I just remember the opener
was Ricky?
Chase Peel. I think it was Ricky.
I think it could have been Ricky. I don't remember, man.
I think it might be Ricky. I was just there for my couple boys. Shout out to the garage for Jared Melton, Ray Lawley.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good, man. I don't know any of those guys, but
it's okay. Ray, you're probably going to know soon. He just fought a couple weekends ago. Supposed to be his toughest fight. It was for the amateur featherweight title at FFC in Utah. Unfortunately, he missed weight by a pound, but supposed to be his toughest opponent, and he knocks him down 20 seconds into the fight, chokes him out about 30 seconds later. And Ray Lawley's 4-0, top best amateur featherweight in Idaho. I will stand by that 100%.
Dude, I love that. I love that, man. You stand by that. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to meet you at that Front Street fight. You were just kind of sitting behind my wife and I, and you and I struck up a conversation, and we were on a date night, and then all of a sudden find out, you know, I podcast, you podcast, and here we are.
I'm also on a date night. I took my then girlfriend, now fiance, to her first MMA event. So
congrats.
It was a great night for both of us. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there we go, man. But hey, we would be missing a great opportunity to talk about fights if we didn't dive into what just happened last weekend, UFC 276. A main card that was absolutely packed, even with the Lauren Murphy Misha Tate fight falling off that card.
I think that's the worst thing to happen.
Yeah, right. But you know, where do you want to start on this, man? What's your hot take on this as a guy who's in the space? And I can hang. I didn't watch much of the undercard, but I did watch Donald, everything after Jim Miller, Donald Cerrone. I tuned in.
You know, I guess I got a few opinions on this one. Man, this is probably the card I have the most opinions about recently in terms of all over the spectrum. One, Pedro, the take that Pedro Munoz quit against Sean O'Malley is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. You're talking about the guy that's a certified badass that's fought everyone in the bantamweight division, that won the first round against Sean O'Malley, but he decides to quit in the second round. I don't know about that one. He even posts his doctor's note about his scratched cornea on Instagram. So I don't understand that one.
I couldn't help but be washed with that feeling while the fight was going on. I think it was just because I'm such a hype guy for Sean O'Malley. Like
don't give me one of those sugar Sean guys.
Dude, I like watching him fight.
I think you're past the age range to be his fan. I think he caps off at like 16.
Don't be coming at me like that.
I'm calling you old. I'm just calling his fans, bro.
I'm not
young.
You know, I'm not dabbing on TikTok or whatever the kids say, but I can still watch some Sean O'Malley, dude. I think he's a fun
fighter, but I got nothing against O'Malley in this situation. It's just against the people on Pedro. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Like, yeah. I want to see Sean back because he's entertaining. Clearly, he's one of the most exciting guys in division.
I think the challenge is with eye pokes in particular. One, the gloves don't. Guys' hands are always splayed out, and I've heard folks talk about. I heard Rogan actually talk about on his podcast the other day. Where there's other types
again for like the 20th time.
The 20th time. Or there's other gloves out there that can help close those fingers. Yes. This is not an area of my expertise, but I would like to see it a lot.
There's actually a little bit of drama here. So I think I forget the timeline. It might have been like a few years ago at this point, because Trevor Whitman, one of the best coaches in MMA, Team Elevation, all that fun stuff. Yeah. He actually makes his own gloves that Bellator uses, and among other promotions. And so I'm like 90% sure on all this. So don't take me verbatim, everyone, but like 90%. So we're pretty safe here. I'll give that kind of warning. So Trevor Whitman, I'm pretty sure Bellator uses it and some other promotions use it. He was talking with the UFC for them to use his gloves because everyone loves them. But the why it never happens, because the UFC wanted to buy the patent essentially for those gloves to produce it themselves and not just buy the gloves from Trevor. So he didn't want that deal, obviously, because it's not great for him. So the UFC ended up sticking with what they have, and Trevor moved away. So I think the UFC has, I'm pretty sure they're financially stable enough to buy some gloves. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see it because, I think the challenge is some guys have had eye pokes that look worse that have continued fighting, because that just did not, the optics of it, play on words there, but the optics of it wasn't, I don't know. It just didn't look like it was that bad, but I've been poked in the eye before and stopped grappling. And it's for the rest of the day. Like, it's brutal. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun at all. So
it's just weird. You tried to open your eye and you physically cannot keep it open. It's the weirdest thing. And some look worse. Apparently, with what I was reading into, is a scratch on the cornea doesn't necessarily relate to a bunch of swelling. But obviously, if you scratch your eye, I don't think you want to get punched in the face and end up like Michael Bisping. So I don't think that's the best situation.
Yeah, all love to Pedro. Hopefully they run that back. I'm still gonna pull for Sugar in it, but that's me.
That's fair. I love him. Me. Send him up the card. Let's fight someone else now. Feed him to Rob Font.
Yeah. What else you got off of that card, man?
I also got that Alexander Volkanovski is the greatest featherweight of all time and is the current pound for pound #1 fighter over Kamaru Usman. I think this dude's title reign has been elite, and especially battering around Max Holloway for 5 straight rounds is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah. When he had that Sonya Dong fight and just absolutely starched him, I was that was Volkanovski, right? He fought Korean Zombie.
Yeah, Korean Zombie, not Sonya Dong.
Not Sonya Dong.
You're good. We're just talking about the bantamweight. Sonya Dong, one of the best up and comers out there. Shout out Team Alpha Male as well. You guys rock. But yeah,
that's what I meant though. When he fought Korean Zombie and just absolutely starched him, I was like, oh wow, he's on another level right now.
That fight was brutal.
And then he comes out and fights Max and he won 5 rounds, or at least 4. I mean, I don't know what to say. I just don't know.
It gave Max a hell of a cut on his side too. That thing looked horrible. Shout out to the cut man for being able to deal with it the way he did.
Yeah, I just don't know. Who's coming up to come and get him. Maybe Josh Emmett is probably the only person that I can see that is going to fight him next. But I don't. Josh has had some great fights, man. I mean,
I can definitely shell out about Josh Emmett. He'll always be a favorite of mine because he was our first MMA fighter that we had on the show. Cool. That was after his fight of the year front runner performance against Shane Burgos a couple years back. Yeah. I love Team Alpha Male, love Josh, really love Coach Joey Rodriguez, the head boxing coach over there at Team Alpha Male. Think what he does is severely underrated with guys like, Macy Barber, Song Yadong as well.
Right.
And so those guys are savages. Julian Pavia as well. So I love Josh Emmett. I really do think that this is the only fight they can make at the time for Josh or for Volk to defend against. And I'm not saying that Josh is going to win this fight by any means, because I don't think anyone beats Volkanovski right now. But
I agree.
I think it provides a really interesting stylistic matchup here for Volk, and I would rather see that than him move up to the lightweight division.
Yeah. Yeah, you know who I want? It's not gonna happen.
Wait, Brian Ortega again?
No, dude, I want Bryce Mitchell, man. I want Bryce. I just love the way that kid fights.
I think
man.
he's a win away. I think realistically he could be a win away from a title fight.
Yeah, he'd need a big fight though.
Him versus Arnold Allen.
Yeah, that would be good. Or if he could get his way into it, like not that Ortega wants to fight him or anything. Like Ortega's not going to take that fight.
Yeah,
But,
I guess Ortega has to sell with Yair Rodriguez first.
Yeah, just watching him against Edson and pulling that out over Barbosa, dude. I was like, man, I like this kid. Like,
you mean to 30-26 him?
Yeah,
that's insane, man.
Yeah, it was. That was
also he's funny as hell.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You can't help but like him and like what he's doing and pull for him. But yeah, I think a title shot's probably at least 18 months to 2 years away for him, unfortunately.
He'll be there eventually though. I really do think that.
I think so. And then Izzy's for real, man. Izzy's for real.
Izzy's for real, but also he's for real not really that exciting of a fighter recently. Is the thing here. But so I guess there's a whole bag of bones you could jump into this one. So I guess the way I have to say is Israel Adesanya is not the most entertaining fighter, but also I'm not going to hold that against him because he's doing exactly what he has to do to win fights, to stack rubies on his championship belts, and there's literally nothing wrong with that.
Floyd Mayweather.
Exactly. And this is my thought with the Yoel Romero fight, which was top 3 worst fights I've ever seen, up there with Esparza and Rose and Lewis and Ngannou. The heavyweight fight we never talk about apparently. But he's doing what he has to do, and my take here is that he's the champion. It's up to the challenger to push the champion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Jared just fought a good fight, but it just wasn't enough to get through Izzy because Izzy's that damn good.
I just don't. And again, I know nothing about their weight cut, and I'm an experienced simpleton, but Jared at 185. I know he's going down there to go and I feel like he could have just tackled Izzy at some point in time and taken him to the ground. And maybe that's just a simpleton's perspective, but like I thought Jan Blachowicz put the game plan out there.
But he was also probably another 20 pounds heavier than Jared Cannonier is the thing too. Even with, the rehydration after the weight cut, I would say Jan's probably closer to 230.
Yeah.
That fight. And Izzy his
takedown defense was good for the 1 or 2 shots that Jared took, but
yeah. It's just hard to get in with Izzy as well with his crazy leg kicks. The way he controls distance. It's real hard. I can't say anything against anyone's takedown defense or offense because I have hard time shooting on guys that are 6 inches shorter than me and 30 pounds lighter than me. It's tough sometimes,
Well, we know for sure though, Alex Pereira, Izzy, that has to happen next.
It's happening. You can't skip over that money fight. That's the easiest fight to ever sell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then, I don't hate the idea of getting Strickland in there with Robert Whitaker. I just don't think anything else really makes sense for him right now either.
I guess we'll see if that's a tough one because you have the middleweight division stuff besides Alex, because what are you going to do with the rest of the contenders? Whitaker and Vettori fight, I think in September at the UFC France or UFC Paris.
So that's right. I forgot that fight was made.
Yeah, it's a weird one because what you do with the winner? Does Whitaker get his 3rd chance at Izzy? Does Vettori get his 2nd chance at Izzy's belt? His 3rd fight with Izzy overall. Does the loser fight Sean Strickland? Do we just do Sean Strickland versus Jared Cannonier?
That's probably a better fight. Yeah.
It's a weird thing to do with the title because it's only going to be rematches at this point besides Alex. And I don't see anyone coming up with the next couple of years that can really challenge Izzy. Maybe besides, I don't know, freaking Hamzat Chimaev moves back up to middleweight.
Oh yeah, Hamzat all day, man. I think he's destined. He's destined to run into Kamaru Usman, man. He's it's coming.
When he beats Bilal Muhammad, I think they should book Bilal versus Hamzat for the number 1 contender fight. For whoever wins between Kamaru and Leon Edwards. I think that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, I like that. I like that, man. Well, I tell you what, it's exciting. The UFC is exciting right now. It is
There's a lot.
unbelievable. There's a lot going on for sure, man. And then, two kind of historic fights. I mean, we had some senior citizens fighting between Robbie Lawler being in there. Jim Miller and Donald Cerrone fought. I mean, we got some guys that have been around since, I mean, I was like in middle or high school, right? So, what'd you think about Brian Barberina? Just digging deep and fighting back, man.
Dude's a savage. I think that's his fourth. Actually, I'm not sure if they gave him and Robbie Lawler fight of the night. I forget what the performance bonuses were. I think that was fight of the night, in my opinion. Brian Barberina already has 3 fight of the night bonuses to his name. This really should be the fourth if he didn't get it, because that fight was badass. Him and Robbie were throwing. It looked like Robbie was landing heavier while Brian was landing more. I think after the first round, they had unofficially at least Brian Barberina throwing like 190 strikes, which is that's insane. Just that alone will give me gas. I can't. Yeah. That's a lot of strikes to be thrown. But for him to eventually catch Robbie on the chin, and oh man, that was. Dude, Robbie Lawler is still a freaking savage, and Brian Barberina is a barn burner in overalls everywhere he goes. So yeah, I love them both. I thought that was so much fun.
Well, I'm a Barberina fan now for sure. Like
the little mohawk mullet.
Yeah, it's a good whatever look. He's got going on right now. Usually you see people with that 1090, where it's a little hair in front and it's all party in the back, but he just does the whole thing.
Dude, he looks good. I know I can't pull that off. So hats off to him.
And then Cowboy hanging it up. You think it's for real, or you think he'll get the itch and come back for one more?
I actually believe him, because he was saying he was thinking about this since his fight with Connor a couple years back. So I think it's a good retirement. I think he's on like a 5-fight skid, but also he's still a freaking legend. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he still might do his grappling events, because he's a lot of fun to do that. And he's a cowboy going to Western movies, so he's still having a great time with everything he does. He's going to have tons of exciting stuff going on. I just don't think fighting is going to be a thing. I hope the UFC brings him in for something though, like give him like a special position, whether it be a next hype man on Tough, because they kind of need to save the show after this horrible season. But do something, because I mean, who doesn't love Donald freaking Cerrone? And he did it the right way. Also, I love how Jim threw Joe over to Donald after that fight as well to talk to him first. I think it was great timing all around. And I mean, Donald Cerrone is a legend, but Jim Miller might be one of the most underloved and underrecognized legends the MMA world has ever seen, because I don't think people talk about him enough.
Dude, like, he is on a tear right now.
3-fight winning
into his career.
Well, what's funny is I did the math. Shout out to a social media post going out a little bit later today and they record this. Jim Miller has been in the UFC for about 14 years. His first half of his career, he won 14 fights. His latter half, he's won 10. So he's still going, and he's on a 3-fight winning streak right now. Jim Miller is just relentless. He's immortal. I mean,
yeah, we'll see what happens, man. I'm hoping he gets opportunities against the top of a division.
And here's the idea I want to throw out to you as well, especially for these legends I've had. I think so champions, they have their own shorts. They are typically, the black and gold. Izzy wore green and gold. The only other one was Brandon Moreno when he fought Figueiredo. That was white and gold. What I think we should do is all champions wear black and gold, and any fighter that has more than 20 fights in the UFC should be super recognized. Give them the white and gold shorts to really set them apart.
I like that. I tell you what, you write the first letter, I'll write the second one. We'll send it to Uncle Dana. What do you think?
Hey, he liked one of my tweets on Twitter, so essentially we're best friends.
Yeah, and I know how that is, man.
I'll let him know.
That's a beautiful thing, brother. Hey, well, we just spent a little time on the UFC there. That's really fun for me. I don't get to talk about it that much. Certainly, I'm not the most knowledgeable individual around it, but it's just fun to bullshit.
It's fun to talk about fights, man. Come on now.
Hey, dude, let's pivot a little bit.
Okay.
I one of the things that I see pop up on your reels or your timeline sometimes is this really interesting football like sport that happens in Australia. I didn't even like you wrote AFL and I was like, is that rugby? Like I don't, and I'm like looking up AFL. I actually Googled AFL rugby and I'm
Yep.
like, oh, it's not the same thing.
Oh no, they'll like
Oh,
kill you
yeah,
in
no, I saw
Australia
I
if
saw that. And I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea what's going on. So anybody who's listening to this is a huge like hardcore AFL fan. I'm sorry. I am just learning. So great opportunity for you to show me the ropes here. Maybe tell me a little bit, tell the listeners a little bit about the AFL, why it's exciting. Why do you like it so much?
So Australian football is one of those things. So remember, throw it back to a couple of years ago when it was summer of 2020. We had nothing good going on in our lives when it comes to the sports world, except for the UFC, of course. Shout out to Uncle Daniel for keeping things going. But there was a whole lot of nothing. But what there was going on was Australian football. And I actually learned about this from the Pat McAfee show because there is what he had on. He had some guy on for an interview. The only American to play in the Australian Football League, now he's a part-time Australian citizen as well, he just got that, is Mason Cox. He is 6 feet 8 inches tall, runs like a giraffe, and he is one of the most controversial players in the league, partly because, you know, they're super nationalistic when it comes to their sport, so they love their Aussies, especially when it comes to skateboarders. I learned Australian geography so quick between, like, you know, Queensland, New South Wales, the West Coast and all that stuff. They get after each other, like territorially wise. It's fantastic.
Like soccer hooligans in England kind of deal.
I think so. Yeah. You know, maybe like England versus, I don't think soccer, but maybe like England versus France kind of thing. Is that the rivalry?
I'm not. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I just watch like Green Street Hooligans. I know fans punch each other in the face over geography.
Yeah, no, they do that a little bit, but they get that intense. But I got into it because I just put on TV. It seemed cool enough, and it got me because it's a super fast-paced sport. It's full contact, no pads. In that similar sense to rugby, it is 4 20-minute quarters, and one of the best things, and we all know, I love the NFL, love MMA, but there's commercials every 5 minutes at least, and it's horrible. And Australian football, the pacing is fantastic because they have, for a 20-minute quarter, they have no commercials. There's only commercial breaks in between quarters and in halftime, which is fantastic.
All right.
Yeah. No, it's really bad.
I'm putting a green check mark there. That meets one criteria. Exactly. What else we got? Sell me on this thing.
We got contact. We got dude. So one of the rules that you
I like when I said sell me on this thing. All of a sudden, you just got onto the we side of the conversation.
All
right, let me tell you what we got here. Let me open up the suitcase.
I'm a bit of a salesman. I get it from my dad. Let's sell you on Australian football. So the sport. I'll break down pieces. So they play on a giant field. It's they're all, and one of the cool things, all the stadiums are different sizes. Some are longer, some are wider, some are narrower. It's really interesting. It's almost like I compare it to baseball stadiums where the dimensions of the outfield and the foul grounds are all a little bit different in every stadium. So that's one of the cool selling points there. Each field is about 4 football fields put together. So if you made a giant rectangle out of a football field, that's about how big it is. They make an oval around it. So it's massive. The way you score is that there are 3 goals on either end of the field. There's one big one in the middle and then 2 smaller ones on the sides. The only way you score is by kicking the ball through the uprights. There is no height limit on it, so it could skid off the ground. And as long as it makes it through, it's 6 in the middle. If it hits off the inner poles, it's 1. If it goes through the outer goals, it's worth 1 point. It's called a goal, and if it only is for 1 point, it's called a behind. It is the terminology there. Okay. And there are 18 players on either team on the field at all times. So tons of guys out there. And the way you advance the football is by, you can't pass it, but you punch it. So you hold it in one hand and you punch it with a closed fist. And that's how you get it to your teammates. Or you can kick the ball as well. If you kick the ball and it goes more than 15 meters and someone catches it, it's called a mark. And essentially they get a free kick from that spot. It's full contact. So you tackle guys. It's like kind of like rugby. So like no headshots, but chest and below. You can light someone up. And one of the cooler plays, it's called specky, or it's short for spectacular mark, where as long as you touch the football, you have full rights to run up to someone, jump off their back, and catch the football.
All right. I'm going to start watching Australian football, I think. This is all right. So
it's crazy
right now.
No, so sorry. There's a lot to go in. I'm horrible explaining things like this.
No, I think it's as good of a job as my brain could process.
It's like super fast paced. It's like the pacing of, I would say, soccer, contact of rugby. You have kicking in there. You have tackling. You have people talking smack because it's Aussies, and all, they export banter from their country, and it's fantastic. And you get to see, and also another selling point about the commercials. There's very limited amount of commercials, but I watch everything on it's Australian TV that essentially I stream. Their commercials are 100 times better than ours, for sure. Maybe
really?
It's the accent, maybe it's just a little bit more entertaining. I hate commercials in the US. There's nothing good. Even the Super Bowl commercials suck at this point. It's
well, nobody can go out on a limb anymore because everybody's going to have a problem and post about it on social and just be toxic head trash about it. So
it's exactly. But I hear commercials about Macca's. That's what they call McDonald's over there. It's all great.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's the team to watch in AFL then? So if I decide I'm going to put on
if I was to be
where would I start?
I would probably start with one of the better teams, because my favorite team is not great. Shout out to the GWS Giants. I chose them because they're the first team I remember watching. But it turns out that they're one of the worst teams in the league. So it is what it is. I dug myself into a hole, but I committed. So
did you buy a shirt?
I bought a hat.
You bought a hat. You're stuck with them now.
And you know what? When they win, they're one of the newer expansion teams. They were made in 2010. And also history of the sport. So it was originally the VFL, and it turned into the AFL. It was the Victorian Football League. So they were playing the state of Victoria. It was originally 9 teams. Now they're up to 18. Now it's called the Australian Football League because it's a little bit more national. This has been a sport since the 1800s.
Okay.
So plenty of history behind it. And in fact, it was actually made as an off-season sport for cricket players to stay in shape. And that's why their games are played on cricket grounds. That's why they're so big.
Wow. Man, you just blew my mind. Yeah, absolutely. So, my son plays lacrosse. I
played lacrosse for a few years. It's a pretty fun sport.
Yeah, and I
like it.
I think what I find interesting about lacrosse is it's an old sport in its own right? Yeah,
about natives.
From indigenous peoples or Native Americans or however I can say it. I don't think I say Indians, but the other stuff. And my son was actually watching Pocahontas, and in the beginning scene of Pocahontas, there is a very brief pan over scene where they're actually playing lacrosse.
Huh.
And he asked my wife, he goes, "Hey, what is that? Like, what are they doing?" And she's pulled it up online. She's like, "Yeah, it's a sport. People play it." And then watched a couple highlight videos, and he sees these guys running fast, slapping each other with sticks, taking rippers. And he's like, "I want to do that. Can I do that?" And so he's been obsessed with lacrosse for the last year and a half. I know nothing about the sport.
It's a bit of a complicated one too. It's I played a few years in high school as a long pole defense.
Okay.
So I was the guy with the 6-foot stick that got to whack people. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we see like he's just starting to play with some U10 kids that are all like the long pole starts to come out a little bit and all that good stuff. But he's, we're talking about hybrid sports or sports that kind of remind you of other things. I mean, lacrosse definitely has this like hockey element to it. It definitely has this kind of like soccer-ish element to it. It's definitely got a bunch of pads on like football. The strategy is really interesting. Like the subbing is really interesting. When you look at the PLL, the PLL has a 2-point line. Yeah. So guys are taking long shots and making twos like basketball. So it's like you're like, it's very cool, like sports that, pull in. They're not necessarily consciously pulling in different things, but it reminds you of enough stuff that it keeps you interested. So
especially another hockey thing, like my favorite form of lacrosse was box lacrosse, where essentially you play on they it's a hockey rink that you replace the ice for turf, and it's a lot more contact. So
Yeah,
that was my thing.
goals.
Why I didn't like normal lacrosse is there wasn't enough contact for me, because I'm a football guy. I played college football. I played for 11 years. I did lacrosse in the off season, so I could stay in shape. I need more contact. So box lacrosse was where it's at.
No, I love that, man. I absolutely love that, brother. So where do I start with Australian football? If I'm not going to pull for the Giants, who am I pulling for? And then do I have to be up early in the morning to watch these things? Like when are you watching these games?
So I watch it's called the Watch AFL app, so I could watch them all on replay, which is nice. Sometimes I'll say, the earliest games for us are going to be like at 9:30 on Friday and Saturday nights. So don't have to stay up too late.
Okay.
Sometimes they put them on like FS1 or like FS soccer or football or whatever the channel is. So Fox shows a lot of it. You could watch condensed highlights on the AFL's YouTube page, which is one thing. It's if you want to just get like a bunch of it at once and see the best parts about it, that's definitely a recommendation there. It's like 8-minute games, so 8-minute condensed videos. But the top teams right now, you got the I'll say it in the Australian way, it's Melbourne. It's not Melbourne. They'll get on you.
Let me take a shot at it. What'd you say? Let me hear it again.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
So MELBUN. That's how you pronounce. Yep. That's how you say it. So, they're Australians are sticklers for the lingo. It's not called the playoffs. It's called the finals. If you call it playoffs, you're going to get crapped on. If you call the umpires, referees, going to get crapped on.
Do you have Australian folks listening to your show that shit on you for some of this?
Oh yeah, like I love it. That's small businesses. You gotta find your niche. Australian football is actually our niche. Like almost half of our fans are Australian football fans. I think about 40% of them are actually Australian. So,
dude, I love that.
Yeah, I freaking love the Aussies, man. They're a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, especially the ones in Melbourne.
Exactly. There you go. Heck yeah. So the top teams right now is the Melbourne Demons. You have the Geelong Cats, the Brisbane Lions, and the Fremantle Dockers. Melbourne won the grand final. So the Super Bowl, their Super Bowl is called the grand final.
Of course it is.
Yeah, right. It's not just it's the final, so it's the grand final.
It's the grand final.
And it's typically played at one stadium every year. It's called the MCG, the Melbourne Cricket Grounds, and that holds about 110,000 people, I think. So it's it gets loud back in the back pre-COVID. Things are still recovering, but because Australia is a little bit different than the States here with how we're handling things. Don't need to get into it too much, but so they won the grand final last year. Geelong, I think right now is the best team in the league. So I wouldn't necessarily call you a bandwagon because I actually like Geelong. One of GWS's best players, so my favorite team, one of the best players was traded to them a couple of years ago, Jeremy Cameron, and he's and he just is. I think it might be this year's goal leader so far, or at least he's top 3. Geelong's offense is I think they're a really fun team to watch. So if I had to throw something out to you, I go with the dudes in the blue and white stripes and the Geelong Cats.
All right, shout out to the Geelong Cats. You got a new fan out here.
There you go.
Blanchard podcast.
I do that for you.
Geelong Cats.
Now they're probably going to choke in the finals because I cursed you already, but at least you're going to make it to the finals. I like Geelong. Brisbane.
You mean the grand finals?
No. It's just the grand final. That is the last game. The finals.
The finals.
Yeah. There we go. I've been watching for about a couple of years now, and I still make tons of mistakes. So don't worry about it. I think I'll say one thing. I know I'll slip up and be like, damn, they're going to say something in the comments now. And would you know? They say something in the comments on YouTube. So
I love it, man. This is so new to me. One of the reasons I started this podcast is to learn new stuff and to pull on other people's passion. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to follow the rest of the season of the AFL, man. So I'm going to do my best.
I recommend, and I almost tripped my way into being a part of like Australian football because this is back like when I first started watching. It's like the whole, I would call it the infancy of my personal show. Like my show then was nothing like it is now, thank God, because I cringe. I don't know if you do this, but sometimes I go back and see old episodes. I'll kind of cringe because like, man, it's not good.
Yeah, well, here the reality is, and 2 years from now, you're going to look back on this conversation and you're going to be cringing. So like,
Exactly.
it's part of the journey, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
It's fun though. It's fun to look back and see the progress you've made. But our highest watch. So I was just tweeting a little bit, and then one of the so there's actually an American Australian Football League. It's called the USAFL, the United States Australian Football League. Yeah. So
that's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. They have like about 40 teams. It's a pretty kind of smaller league. It's I wouldn't necessarily call it underground, but it's definitely not close to mainstream. But they have some Australians that play here. They've sent a couple of guys that have played like at least around the Australian Football League. So there's good talent. But essentially he reached out to me and like, hey, I do this. Would you like me to come on the show to talk about it? And that video has, I think, close to 50,000 views, the most viewed one on my channel, at least. And that started my obsession with Australian football. And now I'm in with some of the head guys of the USAFL and meeting all sorts of crazy people. It's
just
I would never thought 2 years ago that I would be daily talking with Australians about the sport I never knew about. It just wild, doesn't make sense, but that's life, man. I freaking love it.
I tell you what, man, and like let's pivot into that conversation because I'm really interested in this as well. I love when people create gravity around them, right? You do a thing, you make a decision. Hey, I'm going to start this podcast. I'm going to take this thing that I'm interested in. I'm just going to talk about it. And I'm going to have people on that want to talk about it. I'm going to have people in the profession that want to talk about it. And this equals value to me in some way. So when we talk about inspiration or when we talk about where the fire comes from, like what started the show? Why did you want to do this? Like what makes you consistent? Because you're one of the more consistent people, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because you do post 2 shows a week. I say I'm going to do 2 a week.
I like to do at least 2, most of the time 3.
I do 1.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a grind to do some of this stuff, man. So like, take me through that. Like what is driving you right now?
I've always been kind of a grinder when it comes to sports, you know, school, other jobs I've had. I grind, and I like to, I think I'm around 6 to 8 posts a day on social medias. I like to do 3 shows a week, and then, you know, subsequently YouTube clips and reels and stuff like that. Like I probably work my show about 40 to 50 hours a week. So it's like a full-time job for me. That's on top of my current job, and that's on top of other side projects I'm doing as well when it comes to social media. Shout out to on the topic of MMA, shout out to FCC, Full Contact Contender. They're a British fight promotion. Got some big news coming up in terms of I guess stuff I still can't necessarily fully talk about because my NDA. But we just had I help with social media management and graphic design for them, so they're great. So
is that what you do? Is that what you do as a career outside of this?
No, my career is, well, as of today, I'm going to be starting a new job. So I'm going to video editing now. My former, or I guess I still have to put in my 2 weeks. Yeah, there's a whole lot going on this week for me, so it's a lot of fun.
This isn't going to go out for another week or 2, so you got
exactly. So my former job then is going to be I did inside sales for a HR payroll software company. So I like my jobs. And before that, I was doing IT with a company partner with Navy. Before that, I was doing property management, and I was a leasing agent apartment. So like all of my jobs that I'm actually making money off of have nothing to do, at least so far, nothing to do with my passion. So that's why I'm trying to work to get closer in it. But I'm horribly addicted to graphic design. Like I love getting on Canva and just making stuff. It's addicting to me. I have never been an artist, but this is what I do, and I feel like I'm fairly decent at it as well, luckily.
Yeah, very good, man. So this is what you started doing it. You realized how much of your passion is expressed in talking about sports and being
Yeah.
around sports and being an insider to a lot of this as well. There's power in being that insider. That's one of the reasons I love asking these questions. I like going inside people's brains and minds and trying to pull out things that maybe they haven't explored, but is locked in there. I think for you, it's like it's keeping up. The sports are current. Like it's hard to keep up with things that are current.
It's exciting. It's like a race, man, that you're always trying not to drown.
Well, I don't know. You know the organization PFF for fantasy football?
Yeah.
So
I actually they denied me for a couple jobs this best, but I still love them nonetheless. I use their stats a lot.
Well, shout out to my boy Mario Pilato. He's an injury analyst for them. He's been a friend of mine for 15, 16 years, and he puts out their injury content. And
that's hard to keep up with.
Oh yeah. That's exactly what I mean. Is like I had him on the show, and then I talked to him afterwards, and I'm like, bro, how much? Because he's he does like, he's a medical, he sells these like equipment for orthopedic surgery and all these robots and things like that. So he's in the space.
Oh, I got a buddy that does that too.
Yeah. So he's always around these like very specific like sports types injuries, which gives him this really interesting expertise in being around a variety of different doctors who are treating a variety of these different things. So
it's badass.
He has this really interesting perspective about injuries. He also has a master's degree in anatomy and physiology and sports science. And he did some training for Boise State and the Carolina Panthers and some other teams.
So you're saying he knows his stuff?
Yeah, he's a total stud, man. And I absolutely love him. But I'm like, bro, like you got a full-time job and like 2 kids, and you're doing this stuff on the side. Like, how do you keep up with all the craziness that's going on in there? And then I look at you and I'm like, you follow the MMA, you follow the NFL, and you follow this punchy football thing that I'm going to get into. And it's like, how do you keep up with all that stuff, man? All the things.
I don't know because I'm balancing this as a full-time job. I got my part-time job with the FCC. I got my full-time job that actually makes me money to be able to support my future family and myself right now. I have a fiance. I have I go a lot of church activities as well. I am pulled in so many directions, but it's kind of fun. I swear I'm not crazy yet. And throw on top of that, I now have to play a consistent amount of hours a week because I'm training for a freaking MMA fight now for some reason. So I don't know. At least I'm going to be ready when me and my fiance have kids later on in life, because like I already don't know what it's like to have time. So it's just going to be a natural thing.
I want you to dig a little bit deeper though. Tell me where the fire comes from. Like where does this energy for all of it come from?
I think it sounds basic, but I freaking love sports, man. So I started this show because I played.
That's what the title of this podcast is. I just freaking love sports, man.
Hey, I'm okay with that because it's the truth. So let's throw it back to day one. I played football 11 years. I played a couple seasons at a local college, and then I ended up tearing everything. And there's some of them are still torn. I tore both in this season. I tore both my shoulders. I tore my ankle. I sprained my wrist. I sprained my ankles. So like I shout out to offensive line. It's a horrible, so much fun position, and I freaking love it. And also shout out to the American River Beavers. Yeah, that was a great experience. But I tear all these things. I'm like, okay, God, I get it. I can't play football anymore. You want me to do something else? Fair enough. I got the point. I got the message here. So I go in. I had to sell like the last month of the season because like it got to the point where my left shoulder is already like my labrum was gone, but I started to tear my right, and so that was like I didn't want 2 surgeries. You know what I mean? So I stopped it there. I ended up getting surgery on my left shoulder a month later, and then before I played football there, I was wanting to go to school at Boise State. So all right, time to go to Boise State. So I transferred up here halfway through my sophomore year, and a year later, I started this show. So I transferred up here like January 2019. I started my show in August of that year with a buddy that I used to play football with, and it's like, hey, let's talk NFL because I still need to do something with football. Obviously I can't play anymore, so let's go ahead and talk about it. It was a horrible show, but that was our start. We did a little off season or a little season preview for the 2019-2020 season, and it's just started pick up from there. Like we had a show where we used to cover and talk a little bit baseball, talk a little bit basketball and football and everything. Then we cover the XFL when that was the thing. I can't wait till it's back.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, right. Damn COVID killing football. Then we talked about MMA. And then I slowly just brought in guys. So like my buddy Jalen that I started this with. He's one of my best friends. And so then later on I brought in the guy doing all my MMA stuff with Blake Campbell. Met him at one of my summer jobs while I was playing football, and he's a big MMA guy. So now we talk MMA almost every week. And then shout out to Donnie. He's my AFL guy that I would go on to meet a couple of years later. He does all that stuff. And another family friend that I talk football a lot with, Alex. He helps me with my NFL stuff. So it's just networking, solely expanding and building something that I had no idea where this was going to go. Dude, I started this thing. I got a mic. I was like, okay, football, let's talk. And I had no idea what I was going to do with the show. And now I'm here. Now I'm technically a licensed LLC in Idaho and trying to make some money off of this thing. And
what a beautiful story, though. And I think for anybody who's listening,
it's just a ride, man. I'm just along for the ride. Like dude, I can't tell you. I have no idea where this is going to take me, if it's even going to take me anywhere. But I just love the people that I've met. I've met so many great people, you included. It's that I wouldn't have met if I didn't do this thing. If I come away from this with making zero money off this thing and wasting so much of my time, I wouldn't call it waste because it's a lot of fun. I genuinely enjoy it. It's my favorite job. I've met so many great people, and even my business partner that I do the FCC media with, and that actually he's the guy I'm going to fight either later this year or early next year.
You're gonna fight him?
Yeah, I'm fighting him. So he actually was my opponent and then my business partner. So that's kind of how it went. So we're fighting.
Well, you've been training some jujitsu too, huh?
I have. I have fallen in love with jujitsu.
It's addicting, isn't it?
It's so addicting. It's addicting because there is a million things to learn, and I will never learn all of it. I just want to learn one thing new every day that I do it, because there is 100 different things you can do off of 100 different positions, and 100 different submissions I can do off those 100 different positions, and 100 different ways where you have to defend those. They can roll into another submission. That's the thing that I hate right now, is being a crazy white belt, is going like, oh, they're doing this to me. All right, perfect defense. Here we go. And then they turn that defense into a submission. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I just defended it.
Oh yeah, man. And it's funny because, I've been doing jujitsu for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. I've been doing it for about 5 months.
Yeah, there you go.
4 months.
And I'll have guys just certain days, or guys will drop into our gym, or I'll go train with some other folks that I just haven't trained with them for a while. And I'll just get ragdolled. And I'm like, dude, like, why are you making me feel like I've never done this before? There's a guy, he's got a Mike Egley. Shout out to Mike Egley train in Boise. Rolled with him not too long ago. I just felt like a baby. I just felt like a baby. And Jason Flynn always makes me feel like that. My professor, who has since passed away, Professor Keith Owen, used to make me feel like that. Just like I've never trained a day in my life. So dude,
it's a humbling sport.
Huh? It's ego dissolving, very humbling sport.
Oh, you can't have one. I guess I have so much fun with it. I train with a couple of guys. Shout out to the Fight Garage.
Okay.
I love them. And I train with a few guys, like a couple amateur fighters, like talking Jared Melton, Raymond Lawley. Those guys are savages, and they're a lot of fun. Wrestlers that will smash you. Train with most of the guys in the room are former wrestlers, like high school, college wrestlers. I think my least favorite role is with my buddy named Pepe. He is short. He's a stocky man with no neck, so I can't choke him out or even hope to. And he's a wrestler, so all he does is smash and neck crank, and it hurts. That's all he is.
Hey, that'll happen. I mean, it's an effective martial art. You certainly, obviously, want to take care of your partners, but at the same time, like, you're in a fight garage, bro. Like, you're there to sharpen iron.
No,
so
I'm training for a fight, so I want them to just give me it, because I might as well get used to it now. I love rolling with my guy Tim McDonald. He actually did his first tournament a few weeks ago. He's a wrestler. He's a lot of fun. He's really good at catching me in arm bars and choking me out with his legs. Or at least trying to. Even though I'm very limited experience, one of my claims I like is I almost never tapped chokes, just because it's like I'm just really good at, my talent when it comes to jiu-jitsu is just biting down my mouthpiece and just suffering.
Oh, great.
And yeah. So that's my claim to fame right there. I can suffer. I suffer well.
I'll tell you what, brother, we'll have to find some time. I've got mats down in my garage, or I'll meet you wherever. But we'll. I know you said you got a fight coming up, so I'd love to be in UK and kind of dummy down for you, and like, let's play.
Dude, that'd be so much fun. I just love like rolling I'll go for like 10 rounds a night, man. It's just,
let's do it.
It's addicting. Also it's beneficial. Those later rounds are so sweaty that it's hard to get a choke on, that it's hard for them to choke you. You just pop my head out like Volkanovski versus Ortega kind of way. And it helps, but like some cranks, some cross faces. I was putting like a half twister. One of the nice things about my shoulders is with how torn they are, it's hard to hurt them in a way like
with
Kimuras get me, but Americanas, like I've had to crank so far back and I was still able to deal with it. So I can't crank. I don't tap to Americanas.
That's scary. They need to be decelerating on your arm a little bit more. If your arm's able to come up, it means your forearm's not twisted over.
So like I've had it like all the way, so kind of jacked, and it was not.
Take your hand like this and turn your thumb facing out.
Yeah.
Take your elbow and put it towards your hip. Now pick your arm up like that. You see how tight it is right there?
Yeah.
So that's what needs to happen, is that arm needs to come down and this needs to turn over, and you're not going to be able to stay in it much longer. But,
fair enough. Good to know. I'll defend that way. And I don't know, man, like I wouldn't say goofing around, but I have a lot of fun with it. Like, I'll talk, like me and my partners will like talk trash while we're rolling, and it helps with the cardio too. A little Kevin Holland type there.
Oh God, that guy's a mouthpiece, isn't he?
It's so much fun. But like, I'll get caught in some stuff and just laugh because like, this is horrible. Like I was getting Ezekiel'd, and my buddy Pepe I felt him just go from a closed fist, because he couldn't get to my carotid. He was like more on the windpipe. So it just sucked. You know what I mean? But he slowly I felt him open his hand up and like movie choke me and just like pull into it. So it's just crushing my windpipe. So I tapped to that because it's training. And I was just laughing the whole time because it's funny. Jiu-jitsu is so much fun, man. It's so much fun.
It's funny. It certainly is fun, brother. And I'm glad you're doing it. And again, you've got my contact info. Hit me up, man. Like I said, I'd love to give you some
let's
rounds.
roll. Let's roll. You're purple. I'll show you the wild white belt in me.
Okay. Roger that. I'll bring a saddle. Hey, a couple of things. Lightning round here at the end. I want to hit you with a couple of things. One, I told you at the beginning of the podcast, I've been a terrible NFL fan for the last couple of years. However, from the age of like 5 or 6 to the age of probably 33, I watched the NFL fairly intently. So I do have a good operating knowledge of what's happening. But as far as like new players and hot teams, I don't really know what's up. I did watch 2 games last year. That's all I watched.
The Super Bowl and some playoff game.
I watched the AFC Championship game.
Yep.
And I watched the Super Bowl, which some people have told me those were the 2 games to watch. Like if you watch 2 games all season, that'd be pretty good. One thing that I found out, the Bills are like kind of good.
The Bills are kind of good. Yeah.
The Bills are kind of good. Like I think I love the Bills Mafia type, like the fan base that's coming back. I liked the logo of the Bills when I was a kid. Okay. So
the red buffalo.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, the Bills were hot. This was like, I was 5 years old in 92, 93.
Oh, so when they went to
6 or
straight
7.
Super Bowls.
Yeah. So they went,
Yeah.
well, they went to, I think 90 to 93. I think they went, but I just remember them getting their ass handed to them by Dallas, and then them getting their ass handed to them by Dallas again, like back to back. And then, I think they went through the playoffs a little bit in the kind of the mid 90s, like 95, 97. They had a couple stops.
They went to 4 straight Super Bowls
and lost them all.
Didn't win a single one.
Didn't win a single one. It was Niners and was it Niners? I can't remember who beat them in the first one or two, but
I think it might have been.
I just remember Dallas handing it to him, and I was like, God, how did these guys? Is the AFC that bad? Like, why did they get that? But Dallas was just that good. I mean, to be honest.
Oh, their 1990s team was insane. One of my favorite players ever is on that team is Larry Allen. He is my guy when it comes to football. Just a specimen.
Yeah.
He's like a 6'6", 330-pound offensive lineman that would chase down linebackers. It's just a freaking athlete. I played ball with his nephew. So that was cool too. Yeah.
So cool, man. But what's going on with the Bills?
What's going on with the Bills is that I think right now they're the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl in terms of tickets and cash. Honestly, I really love them because Josh Allen is he's the kind of guy that can throw a ball over the mountain, but also do it super accurately. Also, what I love about Josh Allen is that he has the cannon for an arm that's deadly accurate, but also quarterback option with him is a very legitimate threat. Like you can actually have success running the ball with Josh Allen, which is awesome. They have good offensive line. They got some running back help this season, which was the position they were kind of struggling in over the last couple of years, was the running back, but they look like they should be good now. Stephon Diggs has been amazing, and they have some wide receivers that are stepping up right now as well. They have they had the best safety duo in the league last year. Their defense got better. They just added Von freaking Miller to their pass rush, and who's the greatest pass rusher in Super Bowl history statistically. Also, I love Von Miller. I'm a diehard Broncos fan. I have been since the day I was born. My godmother raised me to be right.
There you go.
All right, so I love Von Miller, love the Broncos, and the Bills are my second favorite team if I had to choose one. So I'm super happy that he ended up there. I think he's going to do great things, and I think the Bills are the clear favorite, or maybe not the clear favorite, but they're the favorite to win the AFC this year for sure.
All right. Now, here's my second. I had 3 lightning round questions for you. Okay. Here's my second question. Joe Burrow. Is that are we going to be talking about him in 3 to 5 years, or is he a flash in the pan quarterback?
He's not a flash in the pan. This is kind of what I was thinking out of college. He was so pro ready, but it also helps that he has a great team.
I'm a huge LSU fan, by the way. I'm a huge
LSU good for you then. So
I grew up in Louisiana the first 10 years.
You only saw arguably the greatest college football team ever.
Yeah, ever. Yeah, like unreal.
So you have this, but you got Joey B, you got Jamar Chase on the same team, which is a hell of a connection right there. I think even the Bengals also had a defensive lineman from LSU too, correct?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the Broncos drafted Lloyd Cushenberry. He's their starting center, so I like him. He was on that best team ever. So
God, he was,
that LSU offensive line that season. I mean, let's not even just talk about Joe Burrow and the offense, but that offensive line was incredible.
I know. Oh, and they couldn't follow it up, man. And then they got rid of Coach O. So it is.
I love Coach O, and
the Cookie Monster, bro.
Yes, dude. I think he's great. And also, my college coach at American River his name is Coach O. Shout out to Coach Osterhout, super fun guy, as well. So I love my Coach O's, man. I've never met a bad Coach O.
Very good. All right. So,
but Joe Burrow, not a flash in the pan. He's going to be good for a while. It's going to be him and Justin Herbert for the next 10 years, neck and neck.
All right. And then last thing, what's going on in Cleveland?
What's going on in Cleveland is that it's a dumpster fire franchise with dumpster fire organization and dumpster fire hope. And it's a dumpster fire stadium all wrapped up in a very large dumpster fire, because I hate this organization. I hate what they're doing to Baker Mayfield because it's probably the first quarterback in decades to lead them to any sort of success. He led them to playoffs, and they won the playoff game, almost beat the Chiefs really as well. And now they kick him to the curb because they bought they're paying a quarterback $230 million who might not even play this year, let alone his career.
He got a lot of allegations, didn't he?
I think he has more lawsuits filed. Deshaun Watson has more lawsuits filed against him than the Browns have wins over the last 4 seasons. So
that's quite a few. I figure you get nice and fired up about that one because one of the things I've been talking most about this offseason, just how much Baker Mayfield has been screwed over by the Browns. He gave them everything. He gave them energy. He gave them excitement. He gave them a leader. He was a guy that was playing through my same injury, torn labrum, which is a horrible one to play through. And he still went out, did everything he can for this team. And how they repay him, they tarnish his name and they tank him. And now they're going to start Jacoby Brissett over him. It's a joke. Cleveland's a joke. And I do not care about that franchise. Very good, man. Hey, brother. Well, hey, this has been a lot of fun, man. I look forward to the opportunity to reach back out to you. I'll reach back out to you, see when the season's going. If you want to drop back by and
hey, if you need someone, if you need an Australian football guy, apparently I'm here,
dude. When's the finals?
So it's a 23 so they're not weeks, they're called rounds. So each week is called a round. There's another thing of lingo for you. They're going to round 17. There is, I think, 8 more games this season, and then they get into the finals, and then there's 4 rounds of finals. Okay. So October is like when a lot of this stuff, like September, October.
Let's get you in late September, early October, when it's like when we see who's in the finals, who's probably going to the grand finals.
I can do that.
And let's do a whole Australian football episode, man. That would be fun. That would be fun.
Let's do it, man. Absolutely. You'll get some Aussie fans. It's a niche, so hopefully it'll take off as well and get some new viewers because those Aussies are rabid for anything, especially because they kind of hate that. They're not fans of their current media, like Victorian media gets crapped on so often. So that's why we get some fans, because we're just a breath of fresh air, apparently.
Lovely, man. I love it. Hey, well, again, man, thank you for carving out some time for me today, dropping by the podcast. Next, congrats to you, man. Congrats to you for putting the grind in, for creating gravity around you, for growing the platform, and just exploring what makes you happy. So many people sit and wonder about what they're passionate about and how to express those passions and how to eventually cross that bridge of making the things that you're passionate about financially feasible for you to do, so that you can continue to scratch that itch with a smile on your face, brother. And it's been a pleasure. I hope listeners had an opportunity to hear how passionate you are, how knowledgeable you are, and where's the best place for them to find you?
Of course, we have our, I spend way too much time on social media, Twitter, Instagram, at Fourth and Long Media. Check our website. That really has everything you need. That's just thefourthandlong.com. You can catch us there. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, mainly a little bit of Rumble. For anyone that actually uses Rumble, we are there too. I really don't use it. I just kind of upload it and see what happens. But more eyes. I'm a shield for any sort of new viewer, so it is what it is. I'm shameless with it. But yeah, we're post daily, and my claim to fame is we're the only show in the world that talks about Australian football, American football, and MMA. So there you go. The only show in the world that has that offer. So go check us out if you like any one of those 3. If you don't, still listen, because I don't know, please. I
don't know, please. All right, man. Ross Allen, Fourth and Long, thank you so much for coming on the show, brother, and looking forward to next time you and I get to connect. Cheers.
Appreciate it.